Hi everyone, welcome to the Code Ninja Spaces. It's our 11th episode today, so let's start with the news. So the signal one of the day is that math is crossing the human frontier. We have seen AI write code, generating images, but now it's contributing to the pure math. What happened basically this week even surprised mathematicians as well. Ravi Vakil is the leading researcher and the president of American Math Society. He recently shared that he experimented an AI system that helped him prove a new pure mathematical proof. And he was, even though sharing that, he's unsure that even he could do that alone ever. So, what's your take on it, Umar?
I think we've been talking this a lot in terms of AI for scientific research or AI for math. In the last 2 weeks, what we have seen is AI have discovered new Bellman function. AI is solving GPT 5.2 is solving Erdos problems. So clearly, math is now a promptable commodity. I would say it's not that complex function anymore. And by the way, I tell you, the math that we know, Rafa, I mean these symbols and all that, and this formation, this compression, these equations, they are not very old. Like, I mean, 400 years back, the natural way to express thoughts, even in the digits and forms, was a natural language. It's like if we go back 500 years, the math was different than it is now. And Robert Penrose was saying about math, like, what's so special about math? He's a Nobel Prize in maths, and he was saying this that you can explain extraordinary hard problems in a very simple way, right? So, for example, if you think about, okay, what is this tissue box, and you would say, okay, yeah, it's something, it's made of plastic or paper, and then you say, okay, what is paper? You say, okay, in the paper there are, like, as you deep down, as you move further, you would say, okay, then it's made of electrons and protons, and okay, what are electrons? And then there are quarks. At this level, at the level of electron, you can't explain this further. Then what does it mean even? You say, okay, something that satisfies Dirac equations or something like that, right? So math is not something out of this world. Math is basically just a way to explain an extraordinarily complex behavior of the world down to the very down to the extreme precision. That's what math is about. So I've just said, for example, you can't explain what is electron, right? You would say something like, okay, that satisfies Dirac equations, right? Now, this form of thing, when you see math from this lens, then you see, okay, why, if AI solved language, right? Math is just another language. Why it won't solve math? So yes, I mean, if you and then there's so much money that is going into it. Harmonic Labs have invested close to $300 million, I guess, to solve millennium prize problems like Hodge conjecture or Riemann hypothesis. So it's not just that. I mean, there's so much money that's going into it. So yeah, I mean, I think it's fun to see how it's fun to see what are the things that we don't know, and which probably now math would reveal to us. This is very important take. I just want to take a segue. This is very important take. So there are math savants. Math savants are basically people. Savants are people who are basically mentally challenged in some other form, in other ways, like people who can't talk, who can't listen, who can't walk. But there are certain neural circuits in their brains that are extremely active when it comes to maths, right? So go study math savants as well. So what we have discovered with AI is this mathematical function of how human brain works. And now I think it's a matter of time. We'll bombard it with certain data. We would innovate around it, and you would see that we would solve some extraordinary things.
But do you think AI is expanding beyond the human knowledge?
So there is one experiment with a GPT style thing that a guy basically took all the data up to 1900, and the 1900 was a cutoff, and then it asked the GPT to see if it can predict the theory of relativity. So it didn't. So yeah, from that standpoint, if you see, so it didn't predict the theory of relativity. I think it can, because I generally think even the consciousness is a mathematical function, right? It's a function of math. It's just, I mean, there's a company called Logical Intelligence. So one way of, I mean, this whole breakthrough where AI solved language was when Ashish Vaswani and a group of people solved attention is all you need. There was a very famous paper, very simple paper in Google. They wrote that paper, and then the birth of transformers. So that was one way of doing it. But there is another company called Logical Intelligence. That's basically how to measuring AI with energy-based functions, right? So there's another approach as well. So a lot of things are going on around AI. So I think you would see, and especially this year, it would be bumpy, but it would be very exciting. See what's happening to CloudBot. right? I mean,
Exactly.
they're tools. CloudBot is basically a memory architecture. It never
Uh,
misses the context. But this kind of tool use, when you connect with it, even an existing Opus 4.5, and you see things that were not possible before. So I think you probably don't need that much of a research innovation. You just need better engineering and plumbing to make all this work.
Exactly. Claude is getting it crazy. I'm just waiting for the cursor updates as well. So moving on to the second news of the day is that the workforce is becoming synthetic. So what happened this week is that a startup like Atom are launching fully autonomous AI agent as in employees. These are not only co-pilots or tools, but they are specifically AI agents that will build and scale businesses end to end. At the same time, even those platforms like Salesforce are positioning AI agent as in out of the box digital employees. And I personally believe as well that sooner we're going to have AI colleagues sitting next to us as well. So, as in founder and business, what's your take on it? AI as an employee.
It's going to happen, but I'm not sure if a new startup
Hmm.
would be able to survive this, because what Cloud Cowork is, what CloudBot is these are the AI agents. I mean, why do I need a separate team to make it
Hmm.
work? I think the real thing that's required is, I mean, it's great that all these startups are spinning up, but I think what we need to solve for is data sets, national level data sets, breakthroughs
Hmm.
in science. Those kind of things are required more. Tool use, setting up AI agents who can be treated as full-time employees and digital agents or whatever. I think that would be an easy, that's already happening. If you are using Cloud Cowork, if you're using CloudBot, I mean,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't think
already.
that's something so interesting.
Mhm. Got it. So the third news of the day is related to the privacy. Privacy is becoming a premium feature. Before recording this podcast, I have seen Elon tweet as well. He's saying like WhatsApp is not holding the privacy, even Signal as well. But this week, what happened? The founder of the Signals, Moxie Marlinspike, has launched an AI system that is designed specifically. AI system that is designed to be cryptographically unreadable even by its own creator. In simple terms, you can say that it's an AI that is not even readable by its own creators. So
I think
who can actually read
when,
that
when
other?
it comes to security, there are two, three things that we need to think about.
Hmm.
One is straightforward. So, for example, if you let loose CloudBot do everything for you, and expect something extremely scary can happen to you. So, for example, I posted earlier today that don't give CloudBot your checking account. Everything else is fine. So that's
Exactly.
one kind of security. You need to be very careful when you
Hmm.
club CloudBot with models like this and let them loose on everything that you have on your machine. Then of course they will do things that probably won't have, and there's no security for that, right? And so that's one thing. That's one
Hmm.
kind of security. The other kind of security is, so for example, if someone is thinking about, if a bank is thinking about CloudBot, right? And then by the way, there's a huge opportunity here. If a bank is thinking about deploying CloudBot, they won't deploy it. But a company like Code Ninja or other companies, right? There's a huge opportunity, and we're already doing it, by the way, huge opportunity for people like us to harden CloudBot for the enterprise reliability and security, right? So that's the second thing we need to think about, how to make these things. And third is cryptographic, what you said. Yes. Uh, uh, Even today's security levels
Hmm.
cannot be, I mean, most of the things around security are the lapses, right? It's not like that someone who had, there's always a, a flaw in your design where someone just sneak into your system. But when it comes to quantum, all of a sudden most of your cryptographic techniques, they just become obsolete. So but we haven't seen any recent quantum innovations that are of this scale, that we, because if quantum innovation happens to, if what's happening to AI, if that starts happening to quantum, most of your banks won't exist today.
Hmm. That's fair enough. So our fourth news is related to the creation is scaling vertically. There are three news that is backing this news. Over the past 2 months, Google revealed that one of its image generation model has generated more than 1 billion images in just 53 days. So the second thing that backed the creation is scaling vertically is that new images models are maintaining consistent characters across multiple scenes, something that was nearly impossible recently. And the third aspect that backed this that creation is scaling vertical is the Meta glasses that you're wearing right now as well. Meta is scaling smart glasses production to tens of millions of units per year. That's huge. So there's interesting question to ask from you as well, that what happened when machines can generate more content than humans can consume even.
It's a challenge. I mean, we were just recovering from social media, and now this AI is happening. So when you combine AI with social, and then there's another element with technologies like blockchain, it just becomes, I don't know what to make of it. So yeah, I mean, think about it, like with content creation is, so let me give you an example. So we create this content. We
Exactly.
every week we talk about we do this unscripted podcast. And I was talking to Umar Khan, and he was saying like he wants to work on these shorts and wants to really make sure that the shorts gets better and all that. And I said like in StreamYard, we use StreamYard. In StreamYard, I mean, for every podcast there are AI generated shorts, and then StreamYard makes, if you are doing, let's say, 50-minute podcast, StreamYard
Mhm.
makes 8, 9, or maybe 10 shorts that StreamYard thinks are good enough, and then StreamYard tags it, right?
Mhm.
That these 4 shorts have the probability to go viral. It just selects the certain titles for those, and you just need to take them and upload. So what we found was like the shorts that AI generated for us had far more views than the shorts that our dedicated teams used to create. So I think this is a dashboard. This mind is a dashboard. Don't don't think that you are very special, right? AI is insanely great in tool use, in editing, and in doing everything you think you do. Our job now is, in terms of content creation, whatever, is to come up with truly original ideas and holding on to a certain level of mission or vision. Because,
Mhm.
because otherwise, there's a lot of chances we go off the track. So, yeah, I mean, I think how to think originally would be an extraordinary skill down the line.
Exactly. So our fifth news is related to the compute. We really discussed it. Just like math, energy is the new AI bottleneck. AI companies are now investing a lot in the infrastructure. What happened basically is that Microsoft has hired hundreds of energy specialists and is committed to paying for a full power infrastructure. Governments are planning nuclear reactors for the moons. At the same time, there are some One startup is beaming energy through near infrared lasers. So it's not all of the sudden, but AI companies are getting obsessed with the power grid infrastructures and reactors. So what do you think?
AI is energy. I mean, we've been talking about this. Like AI is the innermost loop of AI is energy, right?
Exactly.
And it's not very hard to understand. So lots of data centers, like powered by these very straightforward things. It's not that hard to understand those things, like connected with, so connected on the network. But what really you need is energy. One of the things in US that's driving this push is the competition with China. China somehow in the last 10 years has done an incredible job in bringing solar into the grid. So they have their home users have deployed lots of solar. So their national grid is free now, and they're deploying all that into powering their AI systems. And then they are far ahead as compared to America when it comes to nuclear. So yes, I mean in US our speed is a bit slow than China, but it and by the way it's a challenge. It is the biggest challenge for us in the US now to how to come up with this level of energy. So I mean, and when you see, I mean, if you use Claude or if you use Cursor or any, I mean, we normally use coding platforms for to build lots of code. But yeah, I mean, if you're using, let's say, Claude Cowork, or if you're using General Chat, for me, my limit hits even at the max package. I just end up my limits in days, right?
Mhm.
I mean, people who have lots of ideas, who are doing lots of work, uh, no amount of tokens are enough for them. And what are tokens? Tokens are the manifestation of energy in the data centers. So yeah, I mean, I think when I use these tools, I think I need a lot of them. But then, I mean, and by the way, people who are using, let's say, Claude for $200 max offering, Claude is getting a lot of hit out of it because Claude is it's a bad deal for Claude. But yeah, I mean, that's what it is. Bad deal is because energy is so expensive.
Hmm. So our sixth news is related to something we'll discuss right now. Silicon sovereignty is the new geopolitics. Despite being bans, US on putting on Nvidia and other sellers, that Nvidia is selling advanced chips to China. Meanwhile, on the other hand, China is imposing its companies by law to use domestic alternatives. But as we are seeing the race of AI, so why is every country suddenly being obsessed with the AI race and getting advanced on chips as well?
So first of all, I just want to explain chips and code and knowledge work, how they are connected. So if I was reading Amir Husain's book, right, and it was Cybernetic
Cybernetic.
Society, and it starts with a very profound few lines. I mean, very profound mental model. It says like code can root in any physical machine that it runs on, any code, right? And he says like anything that mutates physical matter, it generates code on top of it, and that code also represents the internal organization of the matter it works on, right? So we need to think of knowledge work and system not as a software and hardware but as a computing machines, right? So think of it like neuron firings in your brain are very much physical phenomenon. Your thoughts are very abstract, right? But can you think of thoughts without neurons firing? No, I mean they're not, you can't separate them, they're one, right?
Hmm.
Your thoughts represent how your neurons are being fired and arranged, and the way your neurons are being arranged, your thoughts are made out of it. So we need to think of these as one computational machine. Now, hardware is part of it, chips are part of it. Chips is basically the phenomena where you mutate physical matter. So we need to think of all this AI, all this software is part of that computational machine. So that's one thing. I just wanted to establish that and I recommend everyone to read that book of Amir Husain. It's and it starts with this code, consciousness, and control. And it says like it's basically a spectrum, and it's the same thing, right? So that's one thing. Now coming back to the chips, yes, I mean this war is heating up. What China figured out was like, I mean, they can make lots of chips, probably not at a level that what Nvidia does, but then what they can do is they can come up with a design where maybe 20 chips of Huawei would be one chip of, let's say, Nvidia, right? So, and it would perform at the same level. So that's what they're thinking of. Like they were short of chips previously, but now they're not. And Jensen said this, like, if you think, I mean, and he said like chips are pretty much a manufacturing business. Building chip is a manufacturing phenomenon. And if you think China is not good in manufacturing, I think you're absolutely wrong, right? So yeah, I mean, I think this is what Chinese governments are thinking, I guess.
Hyper is a composable vibe coding platform, or as we like to call it, CVC platform, to help knowledge workers build internal tools faster and better. So rather than scaffolding the entire solution with AI, Hyper helps build blocks of code through automation and then use agentic AI orchestration to help stitch all those blocks of code to give more deterministic internal AI tooling you can trust. So essentially, it's a better way to build custom tooling or custom software. The idea is to help developers use the AI tools maximally in a one unified workflow. We've built agents like business analysts to help developers boom the requirements, and then we've built data modeler who helps you transfer those requirements into a concrete data model. Then you bring all those things into Hyper AI Studio, where you build tables, hook the databases, build MCP tools to hook with a bot code, and build custom workflows, all using Hyper AI. The idea of Hyper AI is to land up at a point where helping organizations self-build their internal software systems rather than outsourcing to services vendors, and coming up with a platform where the entire solution can fit into a mind of one developer. Both seemingly different ideas come together as one holistic outcome. So it has a dual use. And I think it's much better way to build software where you're not outsourcing everything to the vibes and we're not only using Claude code to generate all the thing. It's basically a spectrum between vibing and architecting software. It's a new class of work that we call composable vibe code.
Exactly. So previously we used to heard about SaaS software as in service. Now we have intelligence as in service. Intelligence is becoming a subscription now. What happened basically? Tesla has tweeted their one-time purchase of self-driving, full self-driving services. From now on every update of intelligence, they're gonna have the customer gonna pay monthly. And similar pricing models are operating in different industries like logistics, robotics, and automation as well. So why is intelligence turning into a subscription instead of something you can own?
So I mean, clearly, so on this topic, I mean, this year in CES, it was all about intelligence as a service, or you could say physical AI as a service, or atoms as a service. So I'm not sure about why Tesla is. I mean, of course, I'm not part of the strategy, but one thing I'm sure of is like Nvidia, for example, are building these vertical capabilities where they're offering these full self-driving system level capabilities to the OEMs. So they've launched new physical AI systems, new models, language models. Like they're trying to plug it with Nvidia Cosmos, and they've launched their CPU and GPU in a stack in a way that any OEM can build their FSD systems or on top of Nvidia stack. So the competition in this part will be tough in terms of when it comes to physical AI. When we talk about physical AI, FSD, full self-driving system, is one example of physical AI. So I was in Riyadh last year, and in front of my hotel there was like Riyadh Rail, there was project, and when I went in Riyadh in January, the train was doing these mileage because it had to complete certain miles before they make it available with the general public. In January, it was doing this. In last year, January, it was doing this, and in December, it was doing this. It's been 2-3 years. It kept on completing those miles. Right? So think about like what can we do? What kind of physical simulation systems we can build that we don't need to do all this in production actually and waste 3 years. Okay, Saudi maybe have funds to spend, but think about times, 3-year time, like what we could have done. So these are all physical AI implementations and opportunities that businesses can build, and they don't need to work with companies like Tesla. They can just spin up all these capabilities on top of Nvidia stack.
Interesting. So our news is next related to the medical health tech in US as well. That medicine is becoming a software. It's not something new, but it's getting very efficiently day by day. US agencies are preparing the pathways for AI systems that don't just assist doctors, but also make clinical decisions, including prescription as well. So at the same time, the medical AI models for the image diagnostic reporting are getting clear through the regulations of the medical as well. So are we very close to AI doctors prescribing medicines?
I think I mean it's an overhype about AI doctors. I mean, currently, I mean, of course, at some point we'll see AI doctors, but currently what's happening is these these regulated industries are dependent a lot on the data. So there's a company called Open Evidence in America. I think 2/3 of American practitioners are using Open Evidence. Think of it like it looks like ChatGPT. It is ChatGPT. Its interface is ChatGPT, but it works for the practitioners because it's trained on that very specific evidences. It's called Open Evidence, right? So think about like Open Evidence with, let's say, 3.5 capability is equivalent to ChatGPT 10.10. The reason for that is very specific, right? So currently, what we need to, when we think about healthcare, we need, and by the way, in America, we talked in one of our podcasts previously, was like in US, rather than building first AI doctors, we need to think about how can we build capabilities like Open Evidence, right? That's one thing. And second, we need to think about if America spends $14,000 in terms of its spent per person, right? Europe spends around 4,000 USDs. And if you really see that 40% of that $14,000 that America spends is an admin cost, right? That's the cost that can be replaced immediately with AI, right? Rather than you start building AI doctors, right? Go for AI doctors, but currently tools like Open Evidence, these are the areas we need to think about, right? How can, and that's basically how we can create data sets in ways that power these models like Open Evidence and create value for the doctor and for the patient. And think about what kind of admin work that we can automate with Cloudbot and plugging it up with language models or open source models, whatever, right? There's lots of engineering and plumbing that goes into make AI work. And by the way, in Code Ninja, I mean, we're building a product, we launched a product, but one of the core things that I'm passionate about, others is passionate about, is like make AI work for the customer. Because we think it's not about services or product, it's so much plumbing that goes into making AI work. I mean, we've hooked Claude into automate most of our sales workflows, right? Now, Claude is doing a lot of my work, but the kind of plumbing and engineering that's required, for example, even just to make Cloudbot hard enough that we can secure reliability and security, it takes a lot of effort and lots of engineering and lots of plumbing. So we need to think about that thing, like how to make this work, right? Rather than thinking about how AI doctors will come in. So lots of hype, by the way. At some point it will happen, but I don't think it's maybe next 6
I think some another way ChatGPT is doing that a little bit, but it's doing that.
From at a moderate level, yeah.
At a moderate level, we can say that. So our last news of the day is related to the human capital is being reallocated. And this is something not very great as well. In 2025 alone, nearly 250,000 tech workers were laid off globally. At the same time, governments and institutes are looking more towards building smaller AI specialized team as well. So what's your take on it? What do mass tech layoff actually signal? Is it something being collapsing or restructuring?
I would say find a government job. Because the only job that's scared is a job in government. No, I think, yes, we are going to enter in unprecedented times, right? This year would be extremely bumpy. At this stage, today, if no further improvements happen with just to make AI work, just to make sure that tools like Cloudbot and others, they can take lots of the workload in the organizations, right? Exactly. It's an adoption thing. It's not a think about it, like what you are using, how you are editing your content. Like you are using Cloud for work, integrating Cloud skills, integrating Level Labs into it, integrating Remotion, and then just using your chat to edit a professional grade video. Right? You're not using read.io, you're not using these other tools, right? This can happen with everything from every knowledge work. This would happen. It's a very interesting take. Like it's very, very important. US software spend is 1% of the total GDP of the US, right? Currently, US white collar knowledge work spend is 20% of the US GDP. What do you think? What is going to happen to that 19% extra? Software is going to take that 19%. And how many jobs? You can't even imagine. 19% of the GDP is being replaced with the software. Right? So that so I think one thing that I talk about with everyone is work. I mean, become roomy, because I think the pure thing currently everyone needs to do is come up with truly original thoughts, truly original ideas, and that's not going to happen if you keep on thinking outwards. You have to think internally. What kind of new ideas you can bring to the table? And every idea execution is one shot away, right?
So that's it for you today. Thank you.